Okay, one more follow-up. I know I'm always following up, but hopefully it's worth it. So if you go back to 1 Nephi chapter 8, it says, in verse 20, I also beheld a straight and narrow path which came along by the rod of iron, even to the tree by which I stood. And it also led by the head of the fountain unto a large and spacious field, as if it had been a world. See, and so this idea, the vision of the tree of life is about world building. Okay, that's what the creation story is about. It's about world building. That's what the atonement is about. It's about world building. There's this famous essay by a scholar about creation stories in the ancient Near East, and the scholars were debating, whether stories about kings or stories about temple building, stories about conflicts and battles between the gods and like chaos dragons and stuff were all part of creation stories or not. And he said, of course they are. Like, all of these stories are about establishing order so that like humans can flourish. Okay. And that's the point. Okay. Lehi's dream, the creation story, it's not about the Big Bang or evolution. It's about what are the principles that need to be in place so that human beings can flourish, so that God's purposes for the earth can be accomplished. And so the creation story is just one step. So is the fall, and so is the atonement. One step in the atonement is actually another creation story, you could say. It's part of the same creation story. And so is temple building, and I'll show that later on. That that's King David is part of this story too, and so is the Davidic kingship. Sorry, the temple building. King David was all about temple building, and I just lost my train of thought. Sorry. We normally think of King David as like the warrior, and so Jesus hasn't come as the Davidic Messiah yet because he hasn't come as a warrior. But the Davidic king was really about temple building, as much as or more than being a warrior. And temple building is part of creation, because if you're building a temple, you're building a world. Like if you're naming something, you're building a world. Like the world is incomplete without a name, or without things having names and purposes and identity. The world is incomplete when there isn't a temple that allows God's presence to flow into the world. And, whether that temple is the Garden of Eden, or whether it's the temple or tabernacle in the Old Testament, or whether it's Jesus Christ, who is the temple and tabernacle, or, or us as temples and tabernacles. So you see, it's all the same story, same imagery. What's happening on a small scale is happening on a big scale. What's happening on a big scale is happening on a small scale, etc. So remember that. The large and spacious field was as if it were a world.